This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. All right, we're doing hot takes, but today is going to be the Shedeur Sanders edition of hot takes. I have asked on Twitter for everybody's Shedeur Sanders hot takes. And I think some interesting conversations are going to be had in this video about Shedeur. We're going to start with Shedeur salivation. I don't understand this generation. I would never call myself that on the internet. Yeah, wow. Maybe this generation's tapped into some new level of ironic humor that I just can't understand as a millennial, because I would never ever have somebody else's first name in their salivation after that. That's crazy. That's wild. Anyways, if he keeps stacking up good games, I feel bad because he asked a decent question. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't crazy. It's just the name. It's just the name that's wild to me. I don't get it. If he's stacking good games and continues to progress in the classroom, could he overtake Dylan by week 1, be QB 2 or 3? I have to imagine the answer to that is yes. Again, it's hard for me to gauge this because me personally, right, I am not high on Dylan Gabriel. And I never thought Dylan Gabriel was a better prospect than Shedeur Sanders, or there wasn't a situation where I thought that I would draft Dylan Gabriel before Shedeur Sanders. The Browns did do that. So they might think about it differently than I do. We'll see how they view it. You know, what they're seeing in the locker room, their internal evaluations are going to be very important. But I find it hard to believe if that Shedeur keeps going on this path that it's just going to be ignored and nothing's going to change in the depth chart. I find that hard to believe, right? Because, again, the investment in Dylan is not insignificant, but it's not so significant that, like, it's crazy to think that, you know, somebody from a lower pick can usurp him. If that's the case, like, you know, if he's outplaying him, he's outplaying him. I don't really think that, I think we're fully within the range of like merit mattering when you're talking about a late third versus a 5th round pick at the same position, you know. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. But admittedly, I think I have a tough read on this. And I think a lot of people have a tough read on this, because most people are coming from the perspective that I'm coming from, where it's like, hey, I wouldn't have drafted Dylan Gabriel before Shedeur Sanders. I think that Shedeur Sanders is a better player or prospect than Dylan Gabriel. And who knows, maybe the Browns internally think that too. They just were worried about the noise of drafting somebody potentially to be the backup as popular as Shedeur Sanders, which seems to be what kept people away from wanting to do it in the first place. All that being said, probably. It would make sense to me. DCG says this: if he's undeniable against Philly this week in joint practice, he might need to be looked at more strongly for actually starting the season, regardless of if it's a gauntlet or not. Those reps against good teams can do something good for him if he's not going to be bad. If you walk out of Philly and Shedeur Sanders is so impressive that you feel like, hey, this guy can hold his own right now versus the top teams in the NFL. I mean, Philly is literally the top team in the NFL right now because they just won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, if he goes up against Philly's first team and he is undeniable against Philly's first team, then you have no reason to hold him back, right? My whole theory for holding him back for that first 6 weeks is, hey, might be a bit true that he's not completely ready week 1, but in 6 weeks you can get him completely ready, right? But if he is undeniable against Philly, he's where you want him to be, he's getting the ball out on time, he's making the reads in the time that you want him to, and he's doing it against a team like Philadelphia, then yeah, there is no denying that that's your starting quarterback at that point, right? I've always said, if any of these rookies are undeniable, you start them, right? So, yeah, if he goes up against Philly, he's undeniable, then why would you not play him at that point? Because, one, he would give you the best chance to win, and two, that would be better for him, right? If he's ready to play, he's ready to play. The only reason you would not play somebody is if you don't want them to go up against a task that they're just simply not ready for, because that can stunt your development. So, yeah, I'd agree with that. The question is, like, how possible is it? I think after this preseason game, I think people feel like it's more possible than ever. I want to remind people, though, that Philadelphia is really, really good, right? Like, Philadelphia is really, really good, really good secondary. So I'm not going to go in with that expectation that he looks undeniable. One, because that's just not realistic. But two, Philly's really good. That's going to be a significant challenge for him. I'm just seeing how he works through it, right? But yeah, if he walks out of Philly and everybody's saying that looks like the best quarterback on the Browns roster after that game, and maybe this preseason game unlocks some confidence, gets him comfortable to the place where he can do that, then yeah, you start him, right? Because then what are you worried about? If he can already hold his own versus a team like Philly, then you're not worried about him versus Cincinnati or Minnesota or something like that, right? So yeah, if he's undeniable here and then he plays against the Chargers and he's undeniable there, then yeah, you got to start him at that point. We'll see what happens. You know, I don't want to put that expectation out there because I think that's unfair to expect him to be undeniable. But if it does happen, then yeah, you gotta change course at that point. I think everybody kind of gets the memo there. Black Sheldon Cooper says Shedeur will still get reps with 2s and 3s next week, and that's okay. You can clearly tell that he's progressing well despite not practicing with the 1s. Let Kevin cook a little bit. Also very, very excited for his future in Cleveland. Yeah. I think that what's important for Shedeur is he gets these challenges and then he completes these challenges successfully, right? Whatever opportunities are in front of him, he takes advantage of. I think Gerald McCoy put out a video where he's like, hey, stop counting reps and start making those reps count. And that's important, right? I don't care about the rep count for Shedeur Sanders. He's gotten a decent amount of reps in practice in general, but I don't care how many reps he gets versus the 1s or 2s. You just got to make the reps that you have count. And I think that's what Shedeur Sanders has done a really good job of in camp this year is when he does get a couple of opportunities against the number 1 defense, he makes it count. When he does get some opportunities versus Carolina, he makes them count, right? Like, whatever opportunities in front of Shedeur Sanders, he just has to focus on taking advantage of it and getting the most out of it. And if he does that consistently, he will be where he wants to be sooner than later, right? That's really what's important. I know a lot of people are trying to sideline coach this whole thing, but that's really what's important. If Shedeur just does what he's supposed to do, takes advantage of all the opportunities in front of him, he will be where he wants to be sooner than later. Christian Corley says, not a hot take, just want to point this out. The narrative before the game was that they were setting up to fail by having him take no reps with the 1s. Now that he looks good, he's 0 credits going to the coaching staff for helping him develop. I do think that's interesting, right? And I'm not saying that Kevin Stefanski deserves all the credit for the development that Shedeur Sanders has done. Obviously, there have been other people who have played a role in Shedeur Sanders' development throughout his career, and Shedeur deserves a healthy bit of his credit for his own success. But it is strange that people think like Kevin Stefanski, 2-time coach of the year, guy who's had success with quarterbacks, with the skill set of Shedeur Sanders, right? Pocket passers, guys who thrive in that kind of system. We're just like acting like that guy has nothing to do positive with what's going on. And that he's a negative factor in everything going on. It seems like people are starting backwards and they're like, they like Shedeur, they don't like Kevin, they want Kevin out of there. So how do I praise Shedeur while also being negative towards Kevin? And the truth is like, it looks like it might be, hey, Kevin's helping Shedeur, Shedeur's helping Kevin. They're helping each other right now. And that's what you want a quarterback coach relationship to be like. But yeah, it is crazy that like, It's crazy how people are talking about this quarterback situation. Because on one hand, I get it. It's the Cleveland Browns, and the Browns have not earned a lot of institutional benefit of the doubt. But Kevin has earned a little bit of a benefit of a doubt factor. Like, not all of the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying we should just close our eyes and trust Kevin or anything like that. Be skeptical, but like, don't assume incompetence from somebody who has not been incompetent, right? Like, that's my whole thing with it, is like, people are just assuming that the Browns are just being outrageously incompetent when that does not appear to truly be the case. But this is my take on it. All right, Eddie Everhart says this: Shedeur Sanders will outplay Cam Ward this year regardless of stats. See, I want to wait to talk about Cam Ward because I have my opinions. I wasn't a big fan of Cam Ward coming out. But if I say something now about Cam Ward, I'm just going to come off as a hater, right? Like, that's people are in a place where they want to be optimistic about Cam. So I'm going to wait and see how that Cam Ward thing goes. But I would just say this: I personally prefer Shedeur Sanders' fit to this offense to Cam Ward's. Luke says this: not a hot take, but can you discuss how Shedeur won the hearts of Cleveland with that conversation with Jesus Tony? I will just say this. I'm not saying it's a work. But it sure smells like a work, right? Like, that felt I don't think it was scripted, but I think there's a certain dynamic between Tony Grossi and Shedeur Sanders that's not really as bad as that video makes it look. And I think if you watch that video carefully, there are some things about it that make you understand that those two have a pretty decent relationship with each other. Like, all I can say is I'm pretty sure Tony Grossi is the one who's the first one to know that, like, Shedeur sat out that one practice with shoulder soreness. He somehow had the relationship with Shedeur Sanders to get that information before anybody else. Also, Tony Grossi somehow in that back area to talk to Shedeur Sanders after the game. It's not normal, right? Media is not really in that area that much, right? But Tony's there. And what institution in Cleveland has really been pumping up the Shedeur hype more than any other institution? It's been ESPN Cleveland. I think everybody involved knows what they're doing. I think Tony understands how people view him. I think Shedeur understands how people view. This is more pro wrestling to me than it is actual something that's happening. I don't really think that's there. I think we're being worked, in my opinion. So, yeah, I am going to say it's a work. Fuck it. But, yeah, that's my personal opinion from just, like, observing things. Feels like work to me. All right. I was having this one conversation on Twitter with Viva Las Vegan and Rail. And I thought it was an interesting conversation to have. And I want to have it on this channel and have it with you guys. So I'm going to bring it up here in the hot take section. But we were talking and he was like, hey, I know the Browns have a history of running these quarterbacks, but these quarterbacks need to play as soon as possible. This isn't a Mayfield situation. You didn't invest in one, and you're not mandated to a long-term plan. You need answers fast. If they aren't ready to start late October, that's your answer. I replied to that because I disagreed a little bit. I get it, but you just can't rush it. Doesn't mean just because you rush it doesn't mean you're going to get answers any faster. Some guys take years to figure out the position. Doesn't mean you do nothing at the quarterback in the meantime. But rushing it isn't just going to speed up confirmation bias. And then my friend Rel responded, I feel like they're obligated to rush to a certain extent. They're not going to play week one. I get it, but you have 2 first-round picks next year. You have to imagine that's in the cards for the package to draft the quarterback. Would be nice to have answers by then. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is there seems to be, for a lot of people, this ticking clock in the back of their heads with this quarterback situation, speeding up the sense of urgency to play some of these rookie quarterbacks because of the idea that the Browns might draft the quarterback next year. I will say this. In my personal opinion, I don't think what happens this year with these quarterbacks is going to be greatly influential on what the Browns ultimately do at the position in the draft. And the reason I say that is not because I'm like, oh, Shedeur's going to stink or Dylan's going to stink. No, they could look good this year, you know. It's just because of, if you look at the Browns' history, if you look at how Andrew Berry likes to operate, this is a team that has been unapologetic and ruthless about the pursuit of elite quarterback play. You know, they got rid of Baker Mayfield to go after Deshaun Watson. That's the big one. But even on a smaller scale, right, when they had Deshaun Watson, they drafted Dorian Thompson-Robinson behind him, despite the fact that that's not usual for somebody to do when you just signed a guy to a long-term deal to draft the quarterback behind him, right? This year, they drafted Dylan Gabriel, and then Shedeur Sanders was available. They drafted Shedeur Sanders, right? The Browns are not a team, for better or worse, that is just going to sit there and accept mediocre at the quarterback position. This regime, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, have demonstrated time and time again they will be ruthless in their pursuit of an upgrade. And if they think an upgrade is possible, they will pursue it specifically at the quarterback position. How many times you heard Andrew Berry talk and he's saying the quarterback position is the most important position in all of sports, not just football, but all of sports. He truly does believe that. So what that means to me is the Browns drafting a quarterback next year has much less to do with how the quarterbacks on the team right now look and much more to do about how the quarterbacks in college football look and where the Browns will be picking, right? Now, obviously, if Shedeur Sanders plays the Browns out of draft contention for a quarterback, then he will remain the quarterback, right? They won't draft one. Or, you know, but even in that case, right, let's say Shedeur wins Rookie of the Year, and let's posit this hypothetical scenario, right? Imagine the Browns win like 8-9 games, Shedeur Sanders wins Rookie of the Year. But the Jacksonville Jaguars are the worst team in the NFL for whatever reason. You got the number 1 overall pick from Jacksonville. And also, let's imagine that whatever prospect is coming out in the draft this year, the top quarterback prospect, is being compared to Andrew Luck as a level of prospect, right? Andrew Luck, Joe Burrow, whoever you want to throw in there is like your number 1 prospect. That's what he looks like. People are saying that's the next, insert this great quarterback's name. Even in that scenario where Shedeur plays well, if the Browns feel like Andrew Luck is available in the draft or Joe Burrow's available in the draft and he's there to be taken, they're going to take that guy, regardless of what they have on the roster. And it would make a ton of sense for them to do it because, yeah, on one hand, you know, people will throw a fit. Shedeur played well. Why are you trying to replace him? But if you're the Cleveland Browns, quarterback is the most important position in all of sports. You need to make sure that you have the best quarterback that you can possibly have. And why not draft somebody if you have the number 1 overall pick that you feel like has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league just because you have another quarterback that you feel like is good on the roster? Because drafting that guy doesn't mean you have to get rid of Shedeur Sanders. And like you could say, hey, look, public relations wise, that's going to be a different monster to deal with. The Browns don't care about that. They traded for Deshaun Watson. Like they don't care about any of this PR stuff, right? They have proven that to us so many times that they don't care how we feel about their pursuit of greatness. They're going to do whatever they feel like makes the team better. So if you're the Browns and you're like, hey, why would we pass up on the potential of having one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL just because we feel good about the guy that we have when we can draft that guy? If that guy lives up to potential, then you play him right away, and then you trade Shedeur Sanders and get something back for him. Or, you know, if that guy is not ready year 1, you can play Shedeur Sanders for his whole rookie year, And then in year 2 of that guy's career, you can trade Shedeur for draft picks and things that you're going to surround him by. Like, it's a win-win scenario. It's just going to piss off Shedeur Sanders fans, and rightfully so. I would be upset too if I were y'all. But the Browns, like, they're not going to factor that in when they're making these decisions at quarterback. They're going to do what they ultimately feel like is best for the team. And if they feel like a quarterback is there that could take them to the next level, they're going to take that quarterback regardless of how any of these rookies look. So my main point on this is I think a lot of people are assuming how the Browns handle the quarterback position is with the 2026 draft in mind, right? That they need to get eyes on these quarterbacks before they know what they're going to do in 2026. I don't think that assumption is correct. I don't think it matters what they see out of these quarterbacks, whether it be good or bad, for what they're going to do in that 2026 draft. If a guy is there for them to take that they feel like can be a top quarterback, they're just going to take that guy. I think that's truly where they stand at that position and where they're going to be at. And I think that's the only thing that matters, right? I think it matters much more about the prospect and the opportunity than it does about what's going on the Browns roster at the quarterback position. And I think that's going to truly determine how the Browns go about the quarterback position. So I don't think they're going into this saying, hey, we have to see Dylan play. I don't think they're going into this thinking, hey, we have to know what we have in Shedeur Sanders before next. I don't think they care, right? They will figure out what they have in Dylan Gabriel in due time. They will figure out what they have with Shedeur Sanders in due time. And if they draft somebody in 2026, they'll figure out what they have in that guy in due time. I don't think they feel like the need to figure it all out this year. And I don't think it's possible to figure it out all in this year. So, yeah, that's why I'm more lax with when Shedeur plays and when Dylan plays, because I just don't think that there is any sense of urgency necessary there. If the Browns feel the need to draft a quarterback next year, they're going to draft one. If they feel the quarterback is good enough that they can't pass him up, they're going to draft them, right? And that's kind of where I think things are headed. We'll see if the opportunity's there. It might very well be that Shedeur plays really well. The Browns have like 2 mid-first round picks and feel no need to use it at quarterback, and move on with Shedeur Sanders as a starter and then eventually pay him, right? That might just be the case. I wouldn't think that's unrealistic if Shedeur Sanders pans out. Could be the case that somebody else comes out in the draft and the Browns do a quick pivot, But I don't think the Browns are going to be in their green room next year, about to turn in the card and thinking to themselves, man, do I really want this quarterback that I feel like is a top 5 prospect in this draft because I have Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders on the roster? I don't think that factors in. And if you've watched how the Browns operate, it would be clear to me that they don't care about that at all. And that's for better or worse, right? The Browns have put themselves in some bad situations because of that. It might be the same philosophy that bails them out, right? Because again, the same idea that motivates you saying, hey, Baker Mayfield's not good enough, we need to go get Deshaun Watson. It's the same idea that motivates you going, we drafted Dylan Gabriel, but let's go get Shedeur Sanders just in case, right? It's the same philosophy. It's just different results. And that same philosophy would tell them, hey, yeah, we got Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders on the roster, but we think this guy's, the next Josh Allen. So we're gonna draft him and see if he's the next Josh Allen. And if he's the next Josh Allen, then he's our guy. If he's not the next Josh Allen, well, then we got Shedeur. I don't see how the Browns feel like they're going to lose in that situation. And honestly, it probably gives them the best chance to solve the quarterback problem long term. That's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.